Hey there. Especially Peruvian is where I learned it. Peruvian comes from a place called Peru, or Peru, if you speak Spanish. Right, okay, Espanol. Now, this is a special recipe that my daughter made for me a couple of weeks ago, and she learned it from her mother, who learned it from her mother, who learned it from her mother. And all of those people, including her mother and her grandmother, her great-grandmother, they all grew up in Peru. So this is a special dish called Causa, and it's an interesting mixture of items that you normally wouldn't think of. So one of the things is potatoes. Now in Peru, they have, I don't know, 27 different kinds of potatoes or something. But I'm just using a plain old American russet potato here. And originally in this recipe, when I ate it, it was made out of mashed potatoes. But I'm going to kind of make my version of it, which is made with baked potatoes that have been cut up and then just heated slightly in the oven. So these have been in the refrigerator overnight. Now what I'm going to do here is just chop them up into some little thin slices, because these are going to form one of the layers of this dish. This is kind of a layered dish. If you have ever eaten lasagna, for example, that's a layered dish, or moussaka in Greek food is a layered dish. Now this is a layered dish similar to that. Maybe you've had a 7-layer dip, okay? And I guess that's maybe the closest thing that I could think of to this, but it's its own unique flavor. So one of the great flavors in this is these potatoes. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put them in the oven for a few minutes, because remember, they're already cooked. I've got the oven set at 300 degrees. And I'm just going to set these in there for a few minutes just to warm up while I chop some of the other ingredients. Speaking of other ingredients, some that you may not think would go in a dish together is a little bit of fresh onion, some fresh avocado, some mayonnaise, and in this case, some canned white crab meat. Now in Peru, when I ate this, they made it with tuna fish. And I've had it with tuna fish, it tastes great. But I'm kind of making my own little version here. Remember, I'm not using mashed potatoes, I'm using just leftover heated up baked potatoes. And I'm also substituting the white crab meat for the tuna. If you don't have white crab meat, use tuna, it tastes great, okay? But these are the ingredients, and I'm going to show you what they look like in just a couple of minutes. So now that we've got our chopped leftover baked potatoes in the oven, just heating up slightly, we have some hard-boiled eggs that I made previously, and that I cooked previously. And now all we need to do is chop up our eggs, chop a little bit of the onion. We're actually not going to use the whole onion, maybe about 1/3 to half total. We have a half an avocado that I used for something else earlier in the day, not in this recipe. I think I made an avocado omelet, yes, that for breakfast. Anyway, so I'm going to put about actually 1.5 avocados in this particular dish. Like I mentioned earlier, I have some mayonnaise. Now one of the things about crab meat, all right, so I'm just going to set that down for a second here. Rinse my hands off a little bit, and then I'm going to cut up a little bit of onion here, okay, and I'm just going to cut the end off. I've already washed all of these vegetables, by the way, so you always want to wash your vegetables before you use them, no matter what, because you never know what kind of truck they've been rolling around in, or who's been touching them in the grocery store, sneezing on them, or whatever. All right, so I'm going to take off the outer layer of this onion. Now, all right, so I'm just going to cut this up in some thin slices here, right here, and I'm trying to watch what I'm doing but not cut myself at the same time as I'm telling you and showing you what I'm doing. So that's always a trick. You won't have to worry about this at home because probably you're not being filmed on camera. All right. So I made some kind of thin slices, kind of odd pieces. You know, I've talked to you before about chopping vegetables, and remember, chopping vegetables is your own unique thing, right? So you can do it however you want. There's no right or wrong way to do it. However, for certain dishes, maybe you want a little finer, a little chunkier, or whatever. For this particular dish, this is about fine for me. And remember, I only used about 1/3 of that onion, and it was a decent sized onion. Okay, so I've got that cut up. Just going to set that off to the side for a minute. And then I'm going to take my avocado, which leads me to, okay, this next thing I'm going to do here, because this is a food from Peru that I'm making. It's called Causa, remember? And right now I have some salsa, which is tequila. Now, is tequila from Peru? No, tequila is from Mexico. However, in Peru, there's a special drink called pisco, which is really kind of hard to find in the United States. But in Peru, they make a really cool cocktail, which they call a pisco sour. And it's made with lime juice. It's made with this pisco, which is a distilled drink made out of grapes. So it has the power of, say, a vodka or something, or a tequila. It has that much alcohol percentage. It's not like a wine, right? It's fermented, but it's made with grape juice, and it's kind of cool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make my own little fake pisco sour, and in two ways it's fake. One is it's made with tequila instead of pisco, but also the other reason is because a pisco sour has beaten egg whites on the top of it, and it kind of makes it frothy, and it makes it taste really good. However, I'm just being lazy tonight, and I've got some food to cook. I've got a lovely wife who's sitting here, right here, waiting for me to finish making her some food. So I'm not going to take the time to froth an egg white just for myself for one drink. But a little taste of some tequila with some lime juice kind of gives me that reminiscent feeling of when I was in Peru many times in the past, and I was having a cocktail before dinner waiting for the good food to come. All right, so I'm going to have a little taste of this. Cheers to you. All righty, so we've got here some chopped avocado. We've got some chopped onion. Only thing we need to do now is chop up some of these, what are they called? Not potatoes. What are they? Come on, you can do it. I know you can. Yes, they're hard-boiled eggs. They're not potatoes, no matter what the chef said earlier. All right, so I'm just going to cut these into some irregular shapes. It doesn't really matter. You can be pretty with them. You could cut them into any designs you wanted. But I'm just kind of crunching them up because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to layer these. Remember, I said this dish is similar to some other things like lasagna or 7-layer bean dip or something like that. In that, we're going to layer the ingredients on top of each other, and then they're going to all kind of blend in and make this really great flavor. So I've got these chopped. I've got my crab meat open. I've got my eggs open. And then what I'm going to do is just take one of these little guys. Let me see. I just need a little bowl. Maybe this little cup right here will work. This is actually a little tiny coffee cup, but I think it's going to do the job here because I have this small amount. 6 ounces, it says 6 ounces of crab meat. I'm going to take that and pour it in. Just drop it in right there. Remember, I've already drained most of the water out of it. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of feel around with my fingers just a little bit. I know that's probably disgusting, all right, to you, but you want to just kind of feel around and make sure there's no little bits and pieces of shell in there. Because if you can feel it with your fingers, trust me, somebody's going to feel it when they take a bite down. And I'm thinking they did a pretty good job of cleaning that one. I don't feel any bits of shell, but it's always good to check. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this mayonnaise and I'm going to mix it with the crab meat. Maybe, let's see, I had a 6-ounce can. I'm thinking about 2 teaspoons, 2 heaping teaspoons, okay? So I'm taking these 2 heaping teaspoons of mayonnaise and then I'm going to mix them with the crab meat. Now, another cool thing about the Peruvian dish is they have a special kind of pepper called ají, and it's kind of a yellowish or orangish color. Now, I don't have any ají with me right here, but I do have a little bit in this little baggie right here, just a little tiny bit of New Mexico powdered green chili. Now, the yellow ají from Peru is also a type of chili, and it has its own unique flavor, and that's great. But I'm not in Peru. I'm in New Mexico, okay? So I'm going to use some green chili. I don't always cook green chili everything all the time, but it's a nice type of spice, and the amount that I put in there, notice it was probably maybe a half a teaspoon at the most, okay? So it's just going to give a nice little subtle flavor, because we don't want to overpower the crab meat, because crab meat's not cheap, okay? And it's also a nice delicate flavor. So we want to keep those flavor profiles going. And then we want to have it mixed with the avocado, with the warmed up potato, with the boiled egg. And I know this sounds really weird, okay? This is one of those funky dishes like you'd see on TV and say, what the heck are they doing? They're putting avocados and baked potatoes and chili peppers and stuff all together, okay? But trust me, this is going to be really, 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 really yummy. All right, so we've got all that mixed up. I'm done with my mayonnaise. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the fridge so it doesn't go bad. Mayonnaise is something you don't want to leave sitting out too long. Gee, that was hard work. Okay, just a little sip off of my fake Peruvian cocktail here. All right, great. Okay, so now I believe that my potatoes are heated up just enough. And again, I'm not cooking them. They're already cooked. Remember, these were baked potatoes, okay? These were baked potatoes here. And so what I'm going to do is just chop them up into little pieces and layer them among the different elements here. So we've got our, ooh, that's kind of hot there. It's been sitting in a 300-degree oven for a little while. All right. Which, by the way, notice I've left the skins on too. Now, some people don't like potato skins, but did you know that there's a lot of vitamins in the potato skins, and there's also a lot of fiber in there as well? So a lot of Americans will eat a baked potato, scoop all the potato out full of sour cream and butter and bacon bits and all that, cheese, and then they'll leave the whole potato skin. Well, that's the most nutritious part of the potato, so don't throw that away. All right, I'm going to turn the oven off because I'm done with the oven. The only thing I need to do now is layer and serve, okay? So the cool thing is I made these boiled eggs just maybe about 20 minutes ago or so, so there's still a little bit warm, maybe room temperature by now. The crab meat has been sitting out, has a little bit of cool mayonnaise, but that's going to be more room temperature. The potatoes are going to add a little bit of warmth, and then the avocado and the onion are also room temperature. So it's almost like a salad, but it's not really. And so you don't want to eat it cold, although you can eat it cold. You can eat it straight out of the fridge as leftovers. It's a really good snack. But when you serve it here, in this case, as the entree or as a complimentary dish, if you have a little buffet, you want to have a little bit of those flavors of coolness and warmth kind of going together. And it's nice and surprising for the person who's eating it. All right, so where'd I put my little thing? Here's my little thing. Little thing meaning my baking dish, okay? So I'm going to bring this back over here. Here's my little baking dish. Now you can use different sizes, doesn't matter. It's like chopping your vegetables, right? Chop your vegetable any of the heck way you want to do it. And same thing, you can use a big flat dish and you can make a huge amount, whatever. But in this case, I want to have layers, and I think this is a perfect little dish. This is like a little bread pan, okay? Or you can make a cake out of it or something. I think it's, I don't know, I'm thinking like I'm reading the bottom. Here we go. 5 by 9. There we go. So it's 5 inches this way, 9 inches this way. All right. But again, it doesn't matter. If you can't find a 5 by 9 pan in your house, then it doesn't matter. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just start layering all of my ingredients. Now, what I'm going to do first here is I'm going to put just a little tiny layer of olive oil across the bottom. Maybe a little bit of salt. Okie dokie. And I like to add a little tiny bit of garlic powder. Okay, because life without garlic is not worth living. All right. That's what I say anyway. All right. So basically, I put that on there. Remember, it's warm because I had it in the oven, so I don't want to touch it too much. Okay. I've got that layered across the bottom. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one layer of potatoes down across the bottom. And then I'm just going to start sprinkling stuff in. Okay, so I think I'll start with maybe a little bit of onion, and then I'm going to put a little bit of avocado right here, and let's see, I chopped that up. There we go. Okay, now I can see where I sliced it. All right, perfect. And then I'm going to put a little bit of chopped eggs here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of our crab and mayonnaise and chili mixture. Okay. Just put that all along. Then I'm going to stick another layer. And I'm going to cut my potatoes up in this a little bit smaller pieces. I left them pretty much whole for the bottom, so it's easier to scoop out without all falling apart. And I'm just going to throw that in. A little bit of chopped onion. A little bit of avocado. All right. They call it aguacate in Espanol. And onion is cebolla. And we have mayonesa and huevos for eggs. Let's see. I think I was doing them in this order. Let's see. Let's try some eggs next. And then... And notice it doesn't really matter what it looks like, right? I'm just kind of squishing it down. Now I'm going to kind of spread it out a little bit. I'm going to put a few dollops of this crab meat going on here. Perfect. There we go. A little bit more potato. Stick it in there. And at this point, it's all just kind of different layers and kind of just showing up. Got a little bit more onion. Right there, a little more avocado. And see, this is the nice thing about slicing it all up in advance, is then once you get going, you got everything sliced in advance. You got your potatoes cooked, either boiled or baked. You've got your eggs that are boiled and chopped. You've got your crab meat already out of the can. And once you have all of these vegetables all ready to go and all the ingredients, then you just kind of stick them on. And don't worry about your hands getting a little messy in this point, because that's all right. Remember, playing with your food is really fun, okay? And it gets you closer to the food. It helps you to feel the texture of it and all that. And now I'm just putting a couple little more potatoes pieces, and then a little bit more onion, a little bit more avocado. Oh man, this is going to be so yummy. All right, you're going to love this, trust me. Okay, all right, squish a little more eggs on top, a little bit more, and I'm using my last little bit of crab meat stuff here. So we're done with that. Spread that out just a little bit. Kind of make sure it's evenly distributed throughout. Then we have our last little bit of potato going in. Again, these pieces don't really matter what it looks like. Okay, just kind of put them all in there. And then the idea is to evenly distribute them though. That's the thing. So in layers, deep, and then also sideways. Okay, so here's our last little bit of onion. All right, last little bit of avocado. Now notice I saved a little bit of avocado and the egg for last, because they kind of look pretty on top, the greens and the yellows and the whites of the eggs and all that. So I've got that kind of spread across the top. Just a little tiny bit of onion. Okay, so the idea is just to get everything we chopped up and stick it in the bowl. Then I'm going to do one little rinse of my hands here, because I'm about to pick up that bottle of olive oil, and I'm just going to do one little last tiny drizzle of the olive oil across the top here. Alrighty, and then a little bit more salt on the top, and we put our green pepper in there already. What I'm going to do just for a little extra color here is to just use a little bit of cayenne pepper, okay, because it's nice and red. You could also use paprika or something, but again, don't use too much, because you don't want to overpower the nice delicate flavor of the crab. So here we go. If you look at that now, yeah, I still don't want to pick that up because the thing's a little warm, but I'll pick it up with some oven mitts on, and I will show you what this looks like. Okay, here we have this beautiful dish of causa. This will serve probably about 4 people, or maybe even a little bit more if you're doing an appetizer, okay? But you notice you have this nice dish full. You can kind of see it through on the sides, kind of see how that's layered. It's kind of cool right there, right? See all the little different pieces. Now I could have layered that perfectly. I could have blended it in a blender and made it really smooth and made perfect little layers. But I kind of like it in this chunky form, because this way you get to actually see all the different ingredients that are involved in this dish. So there we go. This is the Mountain Man Gourmet signing off, making my version of Peruvian causa, but instead of using mashed potatoes, I'm using baked potatoes, okay, pieces, not just smashed up, and instead of tuna fish, I used crab meat. And you can use any variation you want. This is America. We're the melting pot, remember? So you take what you like, you make it the way you want, you find what you have in your fridge, and then you make some good food. So this is the Mountain Man Gourmet saying, eat well, live well, be happy, and we'll see you next time.